The alien grandmother sat in the corner of her broken home, her hands trembling as she held the last piece of bread. The walls of her house were cracked, the roof almost falling, and the wind from the ruined colony whistled through the gaps. She looked at her grandchild, a small girl with wide silver eyes and thin arms. The child's stomach growled, but she tried to hide it with a weak smile. The grandmother broke the bread into 2 pieces. She gave the larger piece to the girl and kept the smaller one for herself. The child shook her head, pushing the bread back. "No, Grandma, you eat, you are weaker than me," she whispered. But the old woman forced the bread into her tiny hands and smiled. The smile was a lie. Inside, the grandmother's heart ached. She knew that after tonight, there would be nothing left. No food, no credits, no way to survive. She had tried to work, but no one would hire a weak old alien woman. The war had taken everything from them. Their fields were burned, their homes destroyed, and their people scattered like ashes in the wind. She watched the girl eat slowly, savoring every bite. Her little cheeks moved carefully, as if she wanted the food to last forever. The grandmother's eyes filled with tears. She had promised her daughter before she died that she would protect the child. But promises were hard to keep when the world itself was against you. Night fell. The colony grew darker, the streets filled with shadows and hungry eyes. The old woman knew what she had to do. She looked at her granddaughter, already asleep on the cold floor. The girl clutched a broken doll, the only toy she had. Left from the past, the grandmother touched her white hair gently, whispering, "Forgive me, little one, I will find a way, even if it costs me everything." Her steps were slow, her body was weak, but her mind was sharp with desperation. She walked through the ruined streets until she reached the hidden market. It was a place where the poor sold what little they had: clothes, metal scraps, even their own blood. But tonight the grandmother carried nothing to sell, only herself. The market was loud, filled with voices and strange lights. Traders shouted, buyers bargained, shadows moved between stalls. The grandmother felt fear crawl inside her chest, but she forced herself to stand tall. She approached the slaver's corner, a place she had always avoided. Chains hung on the walls, the smell of oil and smoke filled the air. The slaver, a tall reptilian with cruel yellow eyes, looked at her with disgust. "What do you want, old one?" he hissed. The grandmother raised her chin and spoke with quiet strength. "I want to sell myself, take me and give food for my granddaughter. She must live, even if I do not." The slaver laughed, the sound sharp and cold. "You? You are old and weak. Who would want you?" he mocked. But then his eyes narrowed. "Still, there may be buyers. Some like servants who never complain. Some like workers who know they have no future. Yes, maybe you are worth something." The grandmother closed her eyes. She thought of her granddaughter's face, the little smile she gave even when hungry. That smile was worth everything. If her suffering could give the child one more chance, then it was enough. The slaver pulled her to the center of the market. His voice echoed as he called for attention. An old alien, strong enough to work, willing to serve for life. Who will make an offer? The crowd gathered, some laughed, others looked with curiosity. The grandmother stood silently, her heart heavy. She was ready to give up her freedom, ready to give her last years for the sake of her grandchild. As the crowd began to whisper, she prayed that someone, anyone, would buy her quickly, so her granddaughter could eat tomorrow. But in the shadows of the market, unseen by her, a pair of human eyes watched. The stranger had just arrived on this broken colony. His gaze was sharp, his heart heavy with his own past. He saw the old woman standing with quiet dignity, and he wondered why such a soul was being sold like an object. The grandmother did not see him yet. She only felt the cold air of the market, the weight of her decision. She told herself this was the only way. She whispered in her heart, "Forgive me, child. This is my sacrifice for you." And so the night began with her surrender, but destiny had already placed another path before her, one she could not yet see. The market was alive with noise. Traders shouted over one another, metal clashed, and smoke curled into the night sky. But the human did not move with the crowd. He stood at the edge, watching with calm eyes. His clothes were simple, travel-worn, but there was strength in his shoulders. He had seen many worlds, many markets, but this scene before him was different. He had come here only to trade, to find supplies for his small ship. Yet what he saw pulled him deeper. In the center of the gathering stood an old alien woman. Her back was bent, but her spirit did not break. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, filled with sorrow but also with something unshaken. Love. The slaver's voice boomed, "Here is a servant, old but willing. Who will take her? Who will feed her child in exchange for her life?" The human felt a twist in his chest. His own memories came rushing back. A war he once fought, a family he once had, faces he had lost. He clenched his fists. Breathing slowly, the crowd began to laugh. A group of miners shouted, "She is useless. Let her starve." Another voice rose, cruel and sharp. "I will take her, for scraps. She can sweep the floors until she drops dead." The grandmother did not respond. She stood silently, her hands folded, her eyes lowered. She was ready to accept any fate, as long as her grandchild would live. The human stepped closer, blending into the shadows, his boots pressed against the dust. His heart beat louder with every step. He did not understand why he cared. She was not his blood, not his kind. Yet something about her dignity, her quiet courage, burned into him. The slaver raised his hand. "Bidding begins. What do you offer?" Coins clinked. Rough voices shouted. A deal was about to be struck. The human's jaw tightened. He could walk away. He had nothing to do with this. But as he turned his head, he caught sight of a small figure hiding near the stalls. It was the child. The little alien girl pressed herself into the shadows, her silver eyes wide with fear. Her hands shook as she clutched the broken doll. She whispered to herself as if praying, "Please, someone save Grandma. Please don't take her. Way." The human froze. The sound of that whisper, the sight of those innocent eyes, tore open something deep within him. He remembered his own daughter, the one he could not save. The memory cut like a knife. His throat tightened. He could not walk away now. The slaver barked, "Sold. To the miner for 10 credits. The grandmother bowed her head, ready to surrender. But before the slaver could push her forward, a new voice cut through the market. "Wait." The crowd turned. Their eyes landed on the human. He stepped out of the shadows, tall and calm, his gaze locked on the grandmother. "I will make an offer," he said firmly. The slaver sneered. "And what will you pay, human? You think old flesh is worth more than scraps?" The human's eyes narrowed, his voice was steady. "I will not pay for her as a slave. I will take her as free. I will give food and safety to her and her grandchild, but no chains, no ownership." The market went silent for a moment. Only the crackle of burning oil could be heard. Then laughter exploded, harsh and mocking. "A human speaks of freedom here? What a fool!" someone shouted. Another hissed, "No chains, then what profit is there?" The grandmother's eyes widened. She had not expected this. No one had ever spoken such words in this market. She looked at the human, confused, afraid, but also curious. The child hidden in the corner felt her heart leap. She did not understand the man's words fully, but she knew he was not like the others. She whispered, "Please, please help her." The slaver's face twisted with anger. He slammed his fist against the table. "This is not a place for kindness, human. If you want her, you must buy her as she is, a slave, nothing more." His voice dripped with venom. The human took another step forward. His shadow stretched long in the firelight. His hand rested calmly on the strap of his weapon, not drawn, but ready. His voice was low, yet every word carried. "I said no chains. You will not own her. She will walk beside me, not behind me. That is my offer." The laughter died slowly, replaced by tension. Whispers spread through the crowd. Some found it amusing, others dangerous. A few looked at the human with curiosity. His boldness unsettled them. The grandmother's hands trembled. She could not understand why this stranger risked so much for her. She whispered under her breath, "Why Why would a human care for me? The slaver leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrowing into slits. Careful, human. You are not welcome to bring your ideas of love and freedom here. If you want to walk out alive, you better take back your words. The human did not blink. His gaze held steady. His past pain and his present choice merged into one truth. He would not let another innocent suffer as he once did. He would not turn away. The crowd waited, breathless. The child pressed her hands together in hope. The grandmother lowered her eyes, torn between despair and a strange spark of light she had not felt in years, and in that tense silence, one thing became clear. The human was not here to trade. He was here to change everything. The market air was heavy, thick with smoke and whispers. All eyes were on the human. His bold words had silenced laughter and replaced it with unease. The grandmother stood frozen, her heart torn between fear and a strange flicker of hope. She could not believe anyone, especially a human, would fight for her freedom. And then, from the edge of the crowd, a small voice broke the silence. "Please don't take my grandmother away." The words were soft but powerful. The crowd turned, sharply. Their eyes landed on a fragile figure stepping out of the shadows. It was the child, her silver eyes wide with tears, her small hands clutching the broken doll to her chest. Her steps trembled, but her voice grew stronger. "She is all I have. Please don't hurt her," the crowd murmured. Some scoffed. Some shook their heads. A child's voice meant nothing here. This was a market of trade, not mercy. Yet the human's heart clenched as he looked at her. Her eyes carried the same pain he once knew, the same desperate plea he once failed to answer for his own daughter. The slaver snarled, "Get that brat out of here." He shoved one of his guards forward. The guard moved toward the girl with heavy steps, but before he could reach her, the human stepped between them. His presence was firm, unshaken. She came to speak. "Let her speak," the human said. His voice carried like thunder through the market. The crowd stirred again, watching with curiosity. Some whispered, "Why does he care for them?" Others muttered, "Humans are strange, dangerous." The child looked up at the tall human. Her tears reflected the firelight. She whispered again, louder this time. "Please, sir, she gave everything for me. She starved so I could eat. She worked until her hands bled. She is my only family. If you take her, I will die alone." The grandmother's knees weakened. Her body shook as she tried to step forward. "Child, stop. You must not beg strangers. I chose this path for you." Her voice cracked, but the little girl shook her head, fiercely. "No," the child cried. "You don't belong in chains. You belong with me. If you leave me, I have nothing." Her words pierced the silence like a blade. The human looked at her, and for the first time in years, he felt something shift inside him. The memory of his lost family burned, but the fire turned into strength. He knelt down, bringing himself closer to the child's eye level. His voice softened. "I will not let them take her from you." The girl blinked at him, confused but hopeful. The human rose again, turning his gaze back to the slaver. His tone hardened. "You heard her plea. She will not lose her grandmother, not while I stand here." The slaver's face twisted with rage. His sharp teeth flashed. "This is no place for soft hearts, human. If you wish to defy the market, then you invite blood. Do you want war over one frail alien?" His hiss echoed in the firelit stall. The human did not move. His eyes burned like steel. "If war is what it takes, then yes," he said. His words were calm but unbreakable. The market gasped. Some laughed nervously. Others drew back in fear. The weight of his defiance pressed against them all. The grandmother whispered, her voice shaking. Why do you do this for us? You don't know us, you don't owe us anything." She could not understand. The human's gaze softened for a brief moment. He looked at the child, then at the grandmother. His voice was low, almost trembling. "Because once I failed to save my own, I will not fail again." The child reached out, her small fingers clutching at the human's sleeve. Her touch was warm, fragile, but filled with trust. It was the kind of trust that could not be bought, only given. The human felt it like a silent vow. The slaver spat on the ground. Enough of this nonsense. The market does not bend for human tears. Guards, take the old one and throw the brat out before she spoils the trade. The guards moved forward, heavy chains clinking in their hands. But the human's hand shifted to his weapon. He did not raise it, not yet, but the promise in his stance was clear. If they tried, there would be blood. The crowd held its breath. Some whispered in awe, a human willing to fight for them. Madness. Others leaned forward, eager to see how far he would go. The child tightened her grip on the doll, pressing it close to her chest. She whispered again, though no one but the human could hear. Please don't let them take her, please. The grandmother's eyes filled with tears. For the first time since the war destroyed her life, she felt something she had forgotten. Hope. The human raised his voice once more, loud enough for all to hear. This ends here. She will not be sold. She will walk free with her grandchild. And if anyone dares to stop us, they will answer to me. The silence that followed was deep and heavy. The child's plea had changed the night. It had turned one man's heart into a shield, and the market into a battlefield waiting to ignite. The market was silent, but the silence was sharp. Every eye was fixed on the human, on the grandmother, and on the trembling child who had stepped from the shadows. The guards froze for a moment, waiting for the slaver's command. The firelight flickered across their weapons. The slaver's lips curled into a sneer. You think you can walk into my market, human, and change the rules? You think your words mean anything here? His voice was low but full of venom. The crowd leaned closer, hungry to see how this would unfold. The human did not flinch. His stance was calm. His hand rested on his weapon, but he did not draw it. His voice was steady, carrying across the tense air. I do not come here to follow your rules. I come with an offer that will change this night. The slaver's eyes narrowed. And what do you offer, stranger? He hissed. The human took a step forward. His shadow stretched long, his gaze swept the crowd before landing back on the slaver. I offer freedom. I offer food and safety for this woman and her grandchild. They will walk beside me, not behind. Me no chains, no ownership, only dignity. The crowd erupted in laughter. Harsh, bitter laughter that cut like knives. Miners clapped their hands and shouted, The human has gone mad. A merchant spat into the dirt. Freedom? Dignity? What use is that in a world like this? Others hissed with amusement, but a few in the back fell quiet. The slaver bared his sharp teeth. You insult us, human. This is a place of trade, not dreams. If you want her, you must pay. And she will be bound, that is the way. The grandmother trembled, her knees weak. Her eyes flickered between despair and the faint spark of something she dared not name. The child clutched her broken doll tightly, her silver eyes locked on the human. The human's voice cut through the noise again. I will not buy her as a slave. I will not place chains on a woman who has already given everything. If you want trade, then I offer something else. The market stilled. Curiosity pushed through the mockery. Some leaned closer, whispering, What else could a human offer? The human reached slowly into his pack and pulled out a small metal case. He set it on the slaver's table. The case clicked open, and inside were shining vials filled with glowing liquid. The crowd gasped. Some recognized it immediately. Medical. Serum. Someone whispered. Human tech. Another hissed. The slaver's eyes widened, greed flickering across his face. That is rare. Worth more than this old husk and her brat combined, he muttered. His claws tapped the table in thought. The human's voice was like iron. This is my offer. Take it and release them both. They walk free with me, or refuse, and you lose more than you know. The slaver's laughter returned, but it was uneasy now. You threaten me in my own market? The human's gaze sharpened. I do not threaten, I promise. If you try to chain them, I will tear these chains apart. And if anyone here wishes to test me, they will learn what it means to face a human who has nothing left to lose. The words echoed like a strike of thunder. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some smirked, but others looked at him with new eyes, not mockery, but caution. The grandmother whispered under her breath, Why, stranger? Why risk so much for us?" Her voice trembled. Her heart could not hold the weight of his defiance. The child clung to her grandmother's side now. She whispered, "Because he is different, Grandma. He doesn't want to hurt us." The slaver leaned closer to the human, his yellow eyes glowing with greed and fury. "You offer me serum, you speak of freedom, but you forget where you are. This market runs on chains, not love. And if I allow this, others will see weakness." His voice dripped with threat. The human's reply was cold and sharp. "No, they will see strength. They will see that even in this place mercy can be worth more than chains." The tension thickened. The guard shifted uneasily. The crowd held its breath. For the first time, the slaver seemed uncertain, torn between greed for the serum and pride for his power. The child's voice rose again, fragile but clear. "Please, sir, take it. Let my grandmother live." The slaver's eyes snapped toward her. He growled, "Silence, brat," but his claws still tapped nervously on the table. The human did not move. His hand pressed the case forward, his voice low, commanding. "Choose. Take the serum and release them, or risk losing everything, including this market tonight." The grandmother closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer. She could feel the crowd trembling between violence and silence. She knew one wrong word could turn this place into blood and fire. The slaver's hand hovered over the case. His face twisted. His pride fought against his greed. The crowd leaned closer, waiting. The guards tightened their grips, and in that fragile moment, the night held its breath. The human's dangerous offer had been made. The future of the grandmother and child now balanced on the edge of the slaver's choice. The slaver's hand hovered over the glowing case. His claws twitched with greed, but his pride fought like a wild beast inside him. The crowd leaned closer, waiting. The grandmother's heart pounded. The child gripped her broken doll tightly, her silver eyes fixed on the human. At last, the slaver growled, "Take them, but do not think you've won anything, human. The serum is mine. Leave the market and never return." His hand snatched the case, his eyes gleaming with victory. Relief washed over the grandmother, but the feeling lasted only a breath. The human's sharp eyes caught the slaver's grin. It was not the grin of defeat, but of deceit. "Guards." The slaver hissed suddenly, his voice low and poisonous. "Do not let them leave alive." The words slithered through the air. The crowd gasped. Some laughed cruelly. The guards stepped forward, their chains and weapons clinking like thunder. Their grandmother gasped, pulling the child behind her. But the human had already moved. His hand reached for his weapon. It flashed in the firelight, not as a tool of slaughter, but as a shield of defiance. "Stay behind me," he told the grandmother, his voice calm, steady, carrying strength she had never heard before. The first guard lunged, but the human struck fast. His movements were sharp, precise, forged from years of war. The guard fell back, his weapon clattering against the ground. The crowd roared in shock. "Go!" The human barked, guiding the grandmother and child toward the exit. They stumbled, fear surging in their chests, but they obeyed. The slaver roared, "Stop them! Kill the human! Take the brat!" The market erupted into chaos. Some traders fled, others shouted, the guards charged, weapons raised high. But the human stood like an iron wall, striking, blocking, driving them back. His every move was not just for himself, but for the two fragile lives behind him. The grandmother tried to keep up, but her legs were weak. The child clung to her side, tears running down her face. Yet in her heart burned something new. Hope. They pushed through the crowded stalls, knocking over crates of metal and baskets of food. Voices shouted, "Run! The human has gone mad!" Others hissed, "He'll never make it out alive." The human cleared the way, his blade flashing, his body a shield. Each step carried them closer to the edge of the market, closer to freedom. But the slavers' guards were many, and they came like a flood. The grandmother stumbled, almost falling, but the human caught her arm, lifting her with strength that felt impossible. "Keep moving," he commanded. His voice was like fire, burning away her fear. They burst through the last row of stalls, the cold night air striking their faces. The ruined colony stretched before them, broken towers, shattered streets, and shadows waiting to swallow them whole. But the escape was not over. Behind them, more guards poured out. Their boots pounded against the ground. Their shouts echoed, "Stop them! Stop the human!" The grandmother's heart raced. Her breath came in painful gasps. The child's legs burned as she tried to keep up, but still they ran. The human led them through the ruins, weaving between fallen walls and shattered machines. He knew the guards would chase. He knew they would not stop until blood was spilled. A sudden blast struck the wall beside them, stone and dust exploding into the air. The grandmother screamed, pulling the child close. The slaver's men had brought rifles. The human turned, his weapon flashing. He struck down one, then another. His eyes burned with fury, his voice thundered, "Keep running, don't stop!" The child's tears streamed down her cheeks, but she obeyed. Her small hands clung to her grandmother's robe. Her feet stumbled, but she did not let go. They turned down a narrow alley, the walls pressing close around them. The human glanced back, counting the shadows chasing them. Too many, far too many. At the end of the alley, they burst into an open courtyard. The moonlight spilled down, pale and cold. For a moment, it felt like freedom. But then, from the far side, more guards appeared, blocking their path. The grandmother froze, her body trembling. The child whimpered, clutching her doll. Their escape was trapped. The slaver's voice echoed behind them, cruel and mocking. "Did you think you could defy me, human? Did you think you could walk away with my prize? You are nothing but a fool, and now you will die with them." The guards closed in from both sides, weapons gleaming. The grandmother's heart sank. She pulled the child close, whispering, "Forgive me, little one, I thought we could be free." But the human did not waver. His body stood firm, his eyes sharp as blades. He raised his weapon slowly. His voice rang out across the courtyard. "I told you she is not your prize. She is free, and I will not let you touch her." The crowd of guards hesitated. Their steps slowed. Something in his voice shook them. He was only one man, yet he stood like an army. The child whispered, "He's not afraid, Grandma. He's not afraid." Her tears fell, but her voice carried hope. The slaver snarled, his eyes burning with hatred. "Then you will all die together." He raised his claw, signaling his men to strike, and in that moment, the night seemed to shatter. The grandmother clutched her granddaughter tightly. The human gripped his weapon, his stance ready, his heart steady. The escape had brought them this far, but now the real fight was about to begin. The courtyard was heavy with silence. The guards surrounded them, their weapons raised. The slaver stood behind, his yellow eyes gleaming with triumph. The grandmother trembled as she clutched her grandchild close. The child's silver eyes shone with fear, but also with unshaken hope. The human stood tall, his weapon steady in his hand. His eyes burned with fire. For a long moment, no one moved. The air itself seemed to wait. Then the slaver snarled, "Strike, kill the human. Take the old one and the brat." His voice broke the stillness, and the guards began to close in. The human's voice rang out, deep and unshaken. "You will not touch them, not while I still breathe." The guards hesitated. Their steps slowed. They saw not just a man, but a force standing before them. His presence was heavier than his blade, his resolve stronger than their orders. The grandmother whispered, her voice shaking, "Why? Why do you fight for us? You don't know us, you don't owe us anything, you risk your life for strangers, why?" The child looked up at him, tears slipping down her cheeks. She echoed softly, "Why are you doing this?" The human's eyes softened. He lowered his weapon just slightly. His voice grew quieter, though it carried across the courtyard. "Because once I lost my own." The grandmother blinked, confused. The child tilted her head, listening. The human continued, his words slow, heavy with memory. "I had a daughter. She was small like you," he said, his eyes flicking to the child. "She had bright eyes and a laugh that filled our home. But the war came, the fire fell, and I could not protect her." His voice cracked, his chest tightening. "I held her hand, but I could not save her." The grandmother's breath caught. The child's lips trembled. The guards shifted uneasily, as if the man's sorrow pressed against them too. I swore to myself that I would never turn away again, the human said. His voice grew stronger. No matter the world, no matter the cost. If I saw a child about to lose the one who loves, then most I would stand, I would fight, I would not fail again. The grandmother's eyes filled with tears. She saw it now, the pain in his eyes, the truth in his voice. He was not fighting for power, not for profit, but for love. A love that had been broken yet still lived inside him. The child stepped forward slowly. Her small hand reached out and touched the human's arm. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes glowed with trust. Then you are like me, she whispered. You lost your family too, but now, maybe we can be family together. The human's throat tightened. He looked down at her. Her words struck deep into his heart. For the first time in years, he felt warmth pushing against the cold weight of his grief. The grandmother pulled the child close again, but her voice was different now, not just sorrow but gratitude. You should not carry this pain alone, stranger, she said. If you fight for us, then we will stand with you. The slaver snarled in disgust. Pathetic, empty words of weakness. You think love will save you here? Love is worthless, chains are power, fear is power, and tonight fear will crush you. But the human turned to face him, his eyes burning brighter than fire. No, he said, his voice steady as stone. Love is stronger than fear. Love is stronger than hunger, stronger than war. You may not understand it, but it is the only power that lasts. The crowd shifted. Unease rippled through them. The guards looked at one another. Some faltered, lowering their weapons just slightly. The human's words struck something deep, something even chains could not hold. The child's voice rang out suddenly, pure and small, but carrying through the courtyard. He is right. My grandmother sold herself so I could eat. That was love. And I will never forget it. If love can make her do that, then love is stronger than all of you. The silence that followed was heavy, the slaver's face twisted with fury. Enough of this foolishness. Strike them down now. But some of the guards hesitated still. Their eyes wavered, their grip on their weapons loosened. The human stepped forward, standing between the grandmother and the crowd. His voice thundered. If you believe in nothing but fear, then strike. But if you have ever known love even once, then step aside, let us go. The courtyard held its breath. The moonlight poured down. The grandmother pressed her forehead against her granddaughter's, whispering softly, perhaps this man was sent by fate. Perhaps love is not yet lost. The child squeezed her doll tight, her small heart pounding with both fear and hope. She whispered, He won't let them take us, Grandma. I believe him. The slaver screamed with rage, but his voice cracked. Against the silence, his power began to break, and in that fragile moment, as hearts swayed and weapons trembled, the truth became clear. The human was not fighting with blade alone. He was fighting with the power of love, and it was stronger than chains. The courtyard stood still. The slaver's command hung in the air, but his guards did not move. Their hands trembled on their weapons, their eyes shifting between the human's steady gaze and the small child clutching her doll. Something in the man's words had broken the chains of fear. The grandmother held her granddaughter close, her heart racing. She could not believe what she saw. A market built on cruelty was hesitating, all because of one human who spoke of love. The slaver roared in fury, his claws slamming the table. Cowards, all of you. Do you fear one man so much? Strike him down. But his voice sounded weaker now, desperate. His power was slipping. The human stepped forward slowly, his weapon still in his hand but lowered, his eyes locked on the slaver. Your chains are nothing here anymore, he said. His voice cut through the night like iron. Tonight, you have lost. The guards shifted, and then, one by one, they stepped back. Some dropped their weapons, others melted into the shadows. No one wanted to challenge the fire in the human's eyes. No one wanted to fight against the truth they had just heard. The slaver's face twisted with rage. He lunged forward, but the human's blade flashed. In a single movement, the slaver fell back, his pride broken, his market crumbling around him. The grandmother gasped, unable to believe it. The child's tears turned into a smile, fragile but bright. She tugged at the human's sleeve, whispering, We're free? The human knelt down, his face softening as he looked at her. Yes, you are free. No one will ever take your grandmother away again. The child threw her arms around him, hugging him tightly. Her small frame shook with relief. The grandmother's eyes filled with tears, she whispered, I don't know how to thank you, stranger. The human stood, his gaze still steady. Do not thank me. Just live. Just hold on to each other. That is enough. They left the courtyard together, the broken market fading behind them. The night air was cold, but it carried a sense of new beginning. The grandmother walked slowly, her weak legs trembling, but her heart lighter than it had been in years. The child skipped beside her, her doll bouncing in her hand, her eyes never leaving the human. For the first time in so long, she felt safe. Days passed, the human found them a place to stay, a small shelter hidden among the ruins. He shared his food with them, fixed what little he could, and guarded them. Through the night, the grandmother watched him quietly, wondering who he really was. One evening, as the stars lit the broken sky, she finally spoke. You could have left us. You could have walked away and lived your own life. Why did you stay? The human sat in silence for a moment, then answered softly, Because I could not bear to lose again what you still have. You have each other, and I will protect that. As long as I breathe, you will not be alone. The grandmother lowered her head, her eyes wet. You speak as though you are part of this family. The human looked at her, then at the child curled against her side, already asleep. He smiled faintly. Perhaps I am. The days turned into weeks. Together they rebuilt, small pieces of life. The human gathered scraps and fixed the roof of their shelter. The grandmother cooked what little they had, and the child laughed again. Her laughter was soft, broken at first, but it grew stronger with each passing day. The grandmother began to see the human differently, not as a stranger, but as something more. He had given them not just safety, but dignity, not just survival, but hope. One morning, the child ran into the human's arms, her doll forgotten on the ground. Papa, she whispered. The word slipped out without thought. Her voice was small, but it carried through the quiet air. The human froze, his chest tightened. For a long moment he could not breathe. Then he bent down, his arms wrapping around her. His eyes burned, but not with pain this time, with healing. He whispered back, Daughter. The grandmother watched, her hand pressed to her mouth. Her heart swelled with both sorrow and joy. She saw in that moment what fate had done. A broken man, a broken family brought together not by blood but by love. From that day they were no longer strangers. They were family. The story of the human who freed an alien grandmother and child spread quietly through the colony. Some whispered it as a legend, others as a warning. But for those who heard it, one truth remained, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Where chains ruled and hope was scarce, humanity chose love, and that love created a new beginning.